I am Tamar Ish Shalom, and this is Jewish Crossroads. Over the past year on this podcast, I've spent a lot of time talking to guests about the experience of being Jewish on American college campuses, and more broadly about how American Jewish identity has shifted, deepened, and been challenged in the wake of the war. So I feel that today's story adds something essential and actually compelling to this conversation. It's a similar lens, but also very different one. It's about what it means to be Israeli on an American campus after October 7th, and about how these past 2 years are reshaping the Jewish identity of many of us Israelis and the way we perceive American Jewry and Jewish peoplehood. Maya Tevet Daayan, Shalom.
Shalom, Tamar.
Maya Tevet Daayan is an Israeli poet, writer, public intellectual, and widely respected voice in contemporary Israeli culture, feminism, and literature. She is a recipient of the Israeli Prime Minister's Award for Literature, and she holds a PhD in Indian philosophy and literature, and has taught and lectured for many years at major universities in Israel and abroad, including a recent role as visiting poet at San Diego State University. And it was there, in the aftermath of October 7th, that she faced the difficulties of explaining Israeli grief and fear in environments that all too often felt alienating or dismissive. And at the same time, she found Jewish peoplehood there. After returning to Israel with her family, she lived through another frightening moment when an Iranian missile landed near her father's home while they were all sheltering there, deepening questions about safety and about home. Maya, I'm so happy to have you with me today. I want to take you back to October 6th, before the war. Where were you and your family, and what did your life feel like back then? I mean, what kind of Maya were you?
October 6th, we were actually just departing from San Diego to Joshua Tree Festival, a music festival, which was happening for 4 days in the desert, in the Californian desert. And it was kind of a peak in our lives because we love nature festivals, we love music festivals, we love being in an RV with our children. We love America. We love everything about it. And I was, as I call it, the international Maya. And the international Maya is Maya who lived in many, many places outside of Israel, who was studying and teaching in many places. I was never too sure as to why did my soul even decided to be born in this lifetime, Jewish and in Israel. What was all that burden good for? And the international Maya did not even care about all that because Judaism and being Jewish was a terrible burden for me. Being Israeli was a burden. And I think that October 6th, and I have a very beautiful photo that my elder daughter took of me, and I was so happy. I was so happy in the desert. I was so happy with my girls. Their mother tongue is English. They grew up in many places. I felt like, yeah, we're actually doing it right. We're living the life that we're supposed to live. And that's the photo. I remember myself sitting there in the music festival and thinking, I hope that one day when I look at that photo, I remember that we are living the life we were meant to live. I think that 2-3 hours after that photo was taken, my Facebook feed started to show very, very peculiar, very weird posts. I have very big audience in Israel and many from the Gaza envelope. And so I started seeing those posts saying, can you please call the army? Can somebody call the police? We're trying to reach them. Nobody's taking the call. And I said, okay, it doesn't look real. Somebody's faking. But then they said, we're dying here. Please help. And that's how October 7th started for me on October 6th. And everyone in Israel were still sleeping. So I called my dad and I said, okay, we need to call help. I called my dad. It was very early morning. And he said, oh, Mikey, that's how he calls me. He calls me Mikey. You're always so anxious. Can't you just enjoy your music festival in America? Can't you ever leave your worries behind? just let me sleep. It's Saturday morning. And I let him sleep for another 15 minutes. And the posts kept coming, kept appearing. And I called him again. And my dad said, it's Saturday morning, really, I have to bring the cleaner. I need to get that sleep. Please let me sleep. But then the siren started and my dad said, okay, you know what? Let me look into it. I'll see what's going on. And so that's how it started for us. And I think that for a long time after that, I felt that people around me, like my Israeli friends and family, in a way, they're still sleeping and my eyes are wide open all the time. And I cannot negotiate the differences between us for a while.
And I keep thinking about the symbolism of where you were. I mean, while young Israelis were being slaughtered at the Nova Festival, a festival of music and peace, you were in a similar kind of festival in the US. And I'm sure that everyone around you was celebrating, having fun, and you were like inside some kind of bubble of grief. I mean, it sounds almost insane, the contrast that you were in those moments.
So we were in a desert and people around us were having the time of their lives, obviously, and they were dancing and smoking and singing. And we had another family of friends with us, but once the news broke, they immediately left. They went back to their home in San Diego. That's where they live. So we just took off. We just left. We took the RV and we went deeper into the desert. And there was no one there, like only us on these endless roads. And me, eyes on my iPhone all the time, trying to figure out the news and see that everyone is safe. And then trying to pretend that everything is okay for my girls at the back of the car. And it was only us, and it was a feeling of a bubble, definitely. And it felt like, in a way, probably because of the desert and the loneliness and the news, it felt like the end of the world, but not the end of the world for everyone. It's the end of the world for Jews and for Israelis, not the end of the world for the rest of the people. And when we did meet families who were traveling, they seemed fine. And we could see them. We could see that their life is fine, but they couldn't see us. And that was very, very difficult to hold. Like them not seeing us, although we are there and we're shattered from the inside, and we see them. And I think that's the feeling that I have ever since. I still feel in that bubble. I still feel that I see everything. My eyes are so open, but not many people see me or us. We're still unseen.
Wow. And a few days later, you returned to the university. Tell me about that experience.
That was very weird because I really love that university. It's very, very homey and beautiful to me. And the staff, the faculty around me, they were very warm-hearted. They were very protecting. They were so nice to me. But then again, being nice meant telling me that if I felt if I felt it might be safer, then maybe I should not come for a while. Maybe I should take some time off. Maybe I should stay home. I only later realized that my Jewish colleagues, not all of them arrived to work in the next few weeks. And so that's the option I was given. And I was a bit confused by that because I did feel intimidated. SDSU was hosting a very big rally, which was pro-Palestinian and very much anti-Israel. You already had those hostages posters being ripped all the time. There were many swastikas around the city, not in the campus, but still around the city. You saw flags. My Jewish students were very intimidated. Some of them did not show up to class. And I felt that I should come. I should show up. I should not let my fear hide me. I shouldn't be the one who was hiding. The people who intimidate me should be hiding, not me. And so it felt wrong. And I did come, but at the same time, we did switch classes from week to week, so that nobody knows exactly where the Israeli professor is teaching. And my students complained that it's very uncomfortable for them. And I said, well, welcome to being Jewish. It's very uncomfortable. And here you have some of the experience. Come and experience it with me.
One of the things that you realize is that there's a very deep cultural gap between, us as Israelis and non-Jewish Americans in their response. I mean, you described it that they don't really understand why you are so devastated, so shaken. Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, you say there is a cultural gap and a misunderstanding, but I'm using different concepts when I think about it. And I think that it's an emotional thing. We're talking about a very different sentiment that I had, my Jewish students had, and the other non-Jewish students had. We didn't share the same sentiment. So I don't think it's a cultural thing. I did try to explain to them. It was an MFA class, right? We're writing poetry. We've been there for a few weeks before. We know each other. We already put our bare hearts on the table. And I said, okay, usually I hear you. Now that's the consequences. I wouldn't do it in any other circumstances, but I'm going to put my heart on the table. And I want to tell you what's going on in my country and therefore in my heart. And after I told them that, they were great students and they were really curious. And they said, did anyone in your family was anyone murdered? And I said, no, God forbid. Was anyone kidnapped? And I said, no. Was anyone wounded? And I said, no. And they said, okay, so why are you feeling like that? And I asked them, do you remember 9/11? And they said, no, we were not born then. And I said, okay, did your parents tell you about 9/11? Did you see the footage? Did you see the videos? And they said, not really, because our parents say it's very painful and they don't want to expose us to that. And I said, okay, so let's go back to the family thing. None of my immediate family members was there, but I think that our people are like family, and it's very difficult for me to explain it, but we're very small people. There are not many of us, and we feel very familiar in a family way to each other. And I don't need people to belong to my immediate family in order to feel those family feeling towards them. And I'm in deep grief now, and I'm in deep shock. And some of them said, okay, we get it. But some said they don't get it. They said we come from a very big place with a big, their language is the language we speak now between us. They're used to that. They're used to be the whole world, and they have no clue how it feels to be small, to come from a small place, to be from a small people. And and that was the first time I realized there will be things I will not be able to explain. You cannot explain feelings, right? And from there on, I couldn't explain many feelings. You cannot explain feelings, right? I know now that in Israel, I'm the very anxious kind of person, as already my dad revealed in the beginning of this conversation. And I'm very afraid, I'm very fearful in wars, but I'm surrounded by people who are not afraid at all. And there is no way for me to explain to them what fear feels like.
I wanted to continue focusing on, the conversations you had with your students, because there was a moment that you understood that they can't really differentiate between Maya, the person, and Maya, the Israeli, or the Zionist. Can you tell me a bit about those conversations and what they conveyed to you?
Yeah, I think that most of my students were mainly confused. They were mainly confused. They had no idea of the facts. It's been only 4 or 5 weeks that we've been studying together. So only 5 weeks before that, I actually showed them where Israel is on the map and how tiny Israel is in comparison to California. They had no idea about history or geopolitics or anything like that. And so they were really, really confused, and they were very much influenced by other students around the campus, by TikTok, by Instagram. And some of them, I think, were influenced by the families they grew up in. There are a few who actually said, we're so very angry at you, and we cannot We cannot take you out of the whole thing. We're angry at Israel. We're angry at Jews in general. We're angry at your government. We're angry at everything that you're involved with. And while we like you, but we're so angry at you. And again, it was very emotional. So I was, in a way, I was thankful for them for being so honest. I think it takes some courage to say to someone that you're angry with them. And I said, is there anything that could change your feeling, not change your mind? Again, because I can talk to the mind, but the mind has nothing to do with it. And many of them said, yeah, please talk to us about your background, your family. We need to understand what's going on. But there was a specific student that said, I don't think that anything you tell me at this point would change how I feel. And she was very honest. And she said, I grew up in a family that did not like Jews. We used to mock Jews. We used to believe that, like I heard from my parents, how money oriented you are and blood oriented you are. And it was something you were supposed to say only in the house and not outside the house. And now it's allowed to say outside the house. And I'm saying it outside my house now. And I have friends who say it outside their house. And that's who I am. That's the identity I grew up into. And it was very sad. I actually hugged her, you know. She was an excellent student. She took me a few times. She gave me lifts and she took me around campus to eat. And I hugged her and I said, I'm just so sorry and devastated to hear that. And I have no idea what to do. I just have no idea. And that was, I think, the first time I came face to face with anti-Semitism, that I didn't even need to guess. Is it that? Is it not that? It was that. It was just that.
Yeah. It was just plain anti-Semitism, not disguised by anti-Israel or anti-Zionism. That's amazing that she was so sincere, and you hugging her. That's like a scene from a movie.
I really, I liked her and she liked me, and she couldn't get over those feelings, and I couldn't get over my feelings of shock and anger and mainly I was so helpless. I had no idea. I was not prepared for that. I had no idea what to say. I'm not even sure what would I do now. Like what would you do if somebody told you that? What would you do?
It's a great question. I do not have an answer. But there was one space where you felt understood and where you didn't have to explain yourself, right? And that was the Jewish community.
Yeah, Jewish community was a revelation for me. I lived in Australia. I lived in England. I lived in Canada for many years. And I never ever had connections with the Jewish communities there, mainly because I was the international Maya. So I didn't belong to any community, sometimes to the Hindi community, maybe, but not the Jewish one. And what happened was that my entire calendar full of events with Israeli audience all around the US was canceled in a week. Like in 1 week time, I got cancellations all over the place. I think it was the FBI who said that they cannot allow for an event with more than 20 Israelis to take place. It's not safe again. And my calendar was completely empty. And then I started, I said, okay, I have to do something with this time and the place here and what's going on. And I started writing those essays about anti-Semitism. And I have to say first that the Israelis around me did not like that at all. I received many phone calls and text messages asking me to stop writing, just stop writing that either on Facebook, on Instagram, but also in magazines that I was publishing. And they said, somebody told me, I still keep that message. My mom gets really worried in Israel because of what you say. Can you stop that, please? And I said, your mom should really get worried. And many Israelis just stopped talking to me. And
Israelis that are living in the US.
Israelis in San Diego stopped talking to me, and they were angry with me. And that was a shifting point. And I talk about it because pretty quickly after that, I started to receive phone calls from Jewish people that I never met in San Diego and outside of it. They read my essays and they just wanted to talk. They had nothing to say, but they said, can we just be on the line with you? A Jewish woman came from all the way from Arizona and brought me patties, because I wrote somewhere that my grandmother used to prepare those meat patties for me, chicken patties. She prepared the same chicken patties and she brought them all over. And she said, I wanted you to have a taste of home. And other Jewish people from all over, really, even from South Africa and everywhere, they started inviting me to come and talk to them. Now, I was in the US, so I only went to meet Jewish communities that were not too far from me. And the first thing I told them when I came, usually I did Shabbat in the shul with them. I just came Shabbat morning or Friday evening, and somebody would introduce and say, this is Maya, she's a writer, she came from Israel, she's teaching here. And I just said, do you all know what I'm talking about? Do you all know what I'm going to talk about? And in each and every community, people just burst crying because nobody else understood around them. Nobody understood them. They lost colleagues, they lost friends, they lost even family members sometimes, their children. Very, very difficult stories. And all of a sudden we created this round of people that all understood and all had the shared sentiment. And we didn't talk much. We were just crying and hugging and asking questions, but no answers.
And Maya, if I recall correctly, you have like this one great grandfather in your family line who immigrated to America instead of to Israel from Europe, right?
We had a branch of my grandpa's family who emigrated to America at the beginning of the 20th century. And my grandpa was a little child and he stayed with his mother, who was afraid of the sea because of the Titanic. So in a way, the Titanic was influencing my own destiny. So the whole family went to the States, and there were like stories. I'm not even sure if they're true or family myth, but there were stories. They were doing very well. They had industries. They were living in Beverly Hills. Somebody said something about establishing the Bank of Arizona. It sounds huge in comparison to my grandpa and grandma in the kibbutz. Very, very poor, living of nothing, and very, very Zionist in their core. And I remember that I had huge envy. Like, I was so envious of that smart branch in America. I had no idea who they were. Sometimes I used to translate letters from my grandmother to them from Hebrew to English, but that was the only connection we had. And I never met them. I only fantasized them. And I used to be very, very envy. I have to say that after I met with the Jewish communities and after meeting some beautiful Jewish colleagues and gaining some, like at least 2 or 3 very, very good Jewish new girlfriends in San Diego, I realized for the first time, I realized how they grew up, how they really grew up, and how they really treat those times of anti-Semitism. And it was the first time that I was advised to look up at the roof of the synagogue, of the shul, and to see how many armed guards are standing there to know if I'm safe or not. And I said, really? Are there even armed guards on top of synagogues? And they said, of course. And if it's a bet mitzvah, you have to have even more. And now after October 7th, we have way more armed guards. And I said, what did you do? Like when you were young in times of anti-Semitism waves like that? And they said, well, we just had to keep our heads down for a while, which is what we do now. And I said, wow, I didn't grow up like that. I grew up in Israel and I felt so free and I felt so strong and so capable of taking care of myself. And I haven't seen armed guards before. I was in the army and I got my own weapon. maybe in the Intifada, like, and when I was already almost in the army, and they started to have armed guards in the malls, but not in my childhood. And I started reconsidering my history and my fantasies and everything I used to think about it. And I was also filled with really deep sorrow. And it became very urgent for me to meet them, to meet these people who are my family, and to really just reach out and say, how are you? Just how are you? I didn't do that yet, but I'm still planning to. I have to find who they are.
To reach them. Yeah. This feels like a good moment, Maya, to read one of the poems from your new book. Would you read something for us?
I will read. The book is called The Wandering Jewess, which tells a lot already. So I'm going to read the first poem from that book, and it's called How. How did the Jewess land on me? I was in America, in an RV, on my way to a festival in the desert. I didn't know it was Shabbat or a holiday. How did the fear land on me? Suddenly, an ancient people, an entire history landed on me. On the perfect streets and palm-lined beaches, I understood how any landscape can turn into camps and fences. It made sense. How did it make sense to me? How come I began to say sentences like, there's nothing new under the sun, and in every generation? How did this generation land on me? Hollow stairs, parades, and where did the Star of David land on me from? A woman from New York gave it to me on a large ring. She said, this is what binds us. She said it in English and in Jewish. How did Jewish women land on me? Strangers, new ones, dead ones, surfing, cooking. I was not one of them. I did not know any of this. The world was large and open, and I was all directions. How did the world close in on me? I have no alley left to breathe. I move from place to place. On my shoulders a people, heavy weight. In my pupils the ancient fear. On my finger a Star of David. I could take all of this off, and I can't.
Wow.
I still have it here. That's a Star of David. I'm not sure if you can see. It's pretty big. When she gave it to me, she said it was in New York. So she said, you put it on like that. But when you're in Israel, you can switch it back. And every morning when you wake up, look at it so you know where you are.
Wow. From international Maya to very Jewish Maya. And yeah. I mean, the sense of Jewish peoplehood that suddenly lands on you, you describe it in the poem, not as like this conscious discovery or an active choice, but as an identity that simply, lands on you, or that suddenly you realize that exists regardless of your will. It's just there, like almost imposing itself on you.
It's imposing itself on me, but mainly, again, emotionally. The moment where I feel most alone in the world and most fearful and most in that bubble, and I am nowhere. I have no land underneath my feet. I'm not home. My home is not a home. Nowhere is a home. That's where I kind of feel like an amoeba. I feel the temperature of my people, and they are warm. That's where the warm place is. That's where the warm hearts are. That's where people will keep me warm. It's even before safe and before any intellectual thought about it. That's where I feel warm. That's where people hug me. Now, I'm sure other people in the world are warm, but these people were warm to me at that point in my life, in my personal history.
But, building on that, how did your understanding of belonging to the Jewish people, of mutual responsibility between, Jews in Israel and Jews in the diaspora change? What did you feel and believe, before, and how radically did that shift?
Well, I didn't have any feeling before, so nothing had to shift. I was just happy that I have feelings, okay? As an Israeli, I don't think I've ever looked at the direction of the Jewish diaspora. It's not out of any, I didn't mean that, but nobody ever talked to me about the Jewish diaspora. There was the family I was envy at, but I didn't know who they were or where they are exactly. And the Jewish diaspora was not part of the environment where I grew in. Like we had Israelis around us, and that's it. And so I had no knowledge about the Jewish diaspora. I had no feeling, nothing. Like I was neutral. I just knew there were people there, and there are us. And then for me, it was kind of a revelation to find people that share the same sentiment with me. That was huge. To find people that are like Israelis. When I'm abroad and I need something, if I reach out to an Israeli, they will help me no matter what. Even if it's money, even if I need to stay for the night, they will help me. I'm so confident about it that sometimes when I meet Israelis abroad, I want to get away. I don't want them to find out that I'm me and they're there. It's too close. It was overwhelming for me to find out that most Jews that I met were just like that. And I remember taking my new girlfriend, Jessica, from San Diego, whom I really fell in love with her. And I said, tell me everything. I think I questioned her too much. Yeah, I was interviewing her, like about her life, her childhood, her husband. How did you meet your husband? How do you even live here? What does it even mean to be Jewish? I was so curious about very simple and basic things. I was like a tourist in the Jewish diaspora of the state. And ever since then, I have this very, very deep urge to connect all the time, to make the connections, and I'm involved in all sorts of, all sorts of new plans that hopefully will mature into something that are very, very big, and their aim is one, just to make that conversation, the conversation that I had with Jessica, make it happen between Israelis in Israel and Jewish people in the diaspora, mainly in the States, but in the diaspora at all.
And then you decide to return to Israel in the middle of the war. Was that an easy decision, a hard decision? And what kind of Israel did you discover when you returned?
It wasn't an easy decision. I didn't want to come back because I'm very, very much afraid of wars. I don't want to be in a war zone at all. I'm not good at that. I don't have the resilience, the Israeli resilience. I don't have that. My girls didn't want to go back. My husband insisted on going back. And I follow my husband and I follow his intuitions and in matters like that. And so we went back, and Israel was very, very sad. That was the first thing I felt. It was extremely sad. It was hollow. It was gray. They had fallen faces, and that was very difficult. I wasn't here, so I didn't go through what they went through. In that matter, I was an outsider. I was very much into anti-Semitism. I was curious about it. It was urgent to me. I was writing about it all the time, but people in Israel did not have the capacity, the inside capacity to even listen to that. They had so much going on. They had to survive. And nobody wanted to listen to what I had to say about anti-Semitism. And again, for myself, I was very lonely. I was very, very, very lonely and very scared. And I said, okay, I'll follow what I have to follow. I have to follow my passions. And I started going a lot. I met with more Jewish communities abroad. I went again to New York. I went to Europe for a few times. I started working with various organizations in Israel and preparing all sorts of groups that went to work with Jewish diaspora. And I said, okay, I have to do it even if I don't write about it. And I wrote my poetry collection about that. And even that was difficult for people to comprehend and to take in and to read and to say, okay, because still I think people are very much into surviving the war first, and then we'll have the extra look at what's going on outside of us.
Let's talk a bit more about surviving the war, because once you're back in Israel, during the war with Iran, a missile lands very close to your father's house while all of you are there together in the shelter.
You know, I don't even want to remember that. It's so terrible. I think it's just terrible. We were in the shelter of my dad. My dad has a beautiful, great shelter. His walls are like that. And one of the missiles landed right outside my dad's fence. And it was a 25 meters long missile. I was sure we're going to die. And my girls were sure we're going to die. And they asked me, are we going to die? And immediately I said, no, we're not going to die, because being a mother in a war means you have to lie to your kids constantly. And I lied to them. And I was just shivering there. And my husband was the only one who was like, yeah, nothing happened. Just opened the door of the shelter, started cleaning, trying to figure out how we're actually going to go out from there. And taking us out for 24 hours. I couldn't even close my jaws. I was like that. I was shocked, and I couldn't do anything with that. I was just like that. And after 48 hours, I took my girls to Cyprus and just away from all that to heal. And it's a terrible trauma. That's all I have to say. It's just horrible, horrible trauma to experience that. We are still shaking at any siren and any bomb. And even when we started recording here, there was a truck downstairs, and it made a very big noise. So the house here was a bit shaky, and I was like, immediately felt that. I felt that Iranian missile in my body. So I still carry the missile everywhere. And it feels like a defeat in a way, I have to say.
Has the concept of bait, of home, changed for you, following the war from October 7th in San Diego through the missile that nearly hit your family home to where you're right now?
Yeah, I'm orphaned from my mother, and I was orphaned not in an early age, at the age of 37. But when it happened, I kept saying that once my mom is gone, her house is not my home anymore. And also, in a way, her country is not my home anymore. And I felt like the whole world is my home because I'm homeless. So if I'm homeless, I may just be homeless anywhere else. It feels the same. Now, I even feel that the world is not my home. So now at this moment in time, I'm left with nothing. I don't feel I have a home at all. My home is now a concept. It's a concept of people. My people are my home. My family is my home. The Jewish peoplehood is my home, but I don't have a place, any geographical place. And I keep opening the map. I love Google Maps, and I love looking at places. And place and home is a concept that I'm very, very much busy with for years, but I can't find anywhere on the map where I can just be and say, yeah, that's home. And not Israel as well. I feel very unsafe at the moment. So after 2.5 years, yeah.
It is what it is. During the first months of the war in Israel, when we were a lot in the shelter with our kids, I would think when I was really nervous, because I'm a bit of a coward like you are, okay, in war times. So I thought about somewhere that I can feel happy and safe in, just in my fantasies. And I thought about New Zealand, because my husband and I, after the army, we were there for like 2-3 months and traveled. And it's an amazing place. So I would just think about backpacking in New Zealand. Yeah. And recently, after the Bondi Beach terror attack, I mean, that's Australia, it's not New Zealand, but, it hit me that there is no shelter, even in my fantasies now, that I can think, oh, okay, I can be safe there. I can think about that place. Place.
Yeah, I have family in New Zealand. My beloved uncle lives in New Zealand for many years, and beloved aunt, and they have suffered from anti-Semitism. So I'm not even fantasizing about New Zealand. And I sometimes fantasize about India. I'm not even sure, but it's not home. It's not home. We're talking about different concepts.
Yeah.
To be in a safe place, in a sheltered place, there are places that are safe. There are safe places for sure, but to say I'm home, this belongs to me, and I belong here, and the world is not going to question that, which is what we're witnessing again and again. Maybe the only nation of people who witness questions of, do you deserve a country at all or not? So I don't have that. I can't mark a place. And it's sad to say. I don't want to even say that. I don't want to depress anyone. But I think, yeah, it is what it is. And people are my home now.
We've reached the final part of our conversation, the Jewish Crossroads questionnaire, 5 quick and fun questions. Are you ready, Maya?
I'll try, yeah.
What's your earliest Jewish memory?
Earliest Jewish memory would be probably me at the age of 12, asking my mom to start saying a prayer on Shabbat dinner, Shishi evening, right? I come from a very secular family. My grandfather even forbade us from even setting a foot in a synagogue. Like, he was very angry at God. We were not supposed to do any of that. But at the age of 12, out of somewhere, I'm not even sure where, I really felt that we need to light candles and drink the wine and say a prayer. And my mother said, "Are you turning Orthodox on me? Because it's not allowed." And I said, no, don't worry. It's not happening. And she said, "Okay, so let me have a deal with you. If it's only 2 candles, 1 prayer, and 1 glass of wine, then we're good. But that's it, right? Because you're a teenage. I don't trust you." And I said, no, you can trust me. It's only that. And we kept doing it. We kept doing it since I was 12, and I'm now 50. And we're still doing it, but it's only that. It's only that. Because I keep promise to my mom.
You kept your word.
Yes.
If you could meet any Jewish figure from history, ancient or modern, who would it be and why?
Well, there are a few, but it would probably be Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, which I just missed because I found out about him only after October 7th, and I read most of his books, and I teach him. And he died at 2020, and I should have studied with him. I'm not even sure how it happened. So yeah, if we can fix that, thank you. I'm going to offer it.
What is your favorite or most meaningful Jewish tradition?
Probably the Shabbat evening thing that we do, whatever it is, like this prayer that apparently is based on a paganic ritual that has the fire, the alcohol, the bread, and the word. And that ritual, I think it came with me from who knows which previous lives, and it's still very meaningful to me, to my girls, to my family. We do it with all our not Jewish friends, and they love it as well, so must be it.
If you could jump 100 years into the future in one sentence, what would be your hope? What would you like to see for the Jewish people?
Oh, a safe place would be a very, very good start. Just a place on the map that is ours, that is not being missiled and then questioned or anything like that. Just a safe, quiet place for Jewish people. It may as well be an island somewhere, as far as I'm concerned.
There is Israel, but you want it to be safe as well.
I want to be safe. I can take Israel to an island in the middle of the ocean, and I'm happy. Yeah, a land would be great for me.
What is one Jewish word? It can be in Hebrew, English, Yiddish, whatever, Sanskrit, that feels particularly meaningful to you right now.
I keep saying to myself the phrase in Hebrew, לעשות חיים. לעשות חיים, if you translate it to English, it just becomes have fun. But have fun is very shallow, and the words actually say make a life. לעשות חיים is make a life, create a life. And that's something that we say constantly. I say to my girls whenever they go out of the house. I say to my husband. I even say to myself, Maya, תעשי חיים, just have a life, make a life. And I think it's a very, very prominent concept for Jewish people who are the cult of life, right? And we're creating life, we're sharing the creation with God, and we keep doing it all the time. And the have fun for us is create a life. And everything you say that makes you more vivid, more full of life, more happy, is good for that matter. So create a life. Go outside, create a life, make a life, I keep saying, I think that's the most important.
So Maya, with which poem should we end this conversation?
Yeah, we'll end with the last poem in that book, okay? Which is also positive in a way, as positive as I can get. Based on a true story, studying with my daughter for her history final. In these books, all the stories end the same way. No matter how long the war lasted, how global it became, in the end, the soldiers grow tired. They long for the small wooden porch, the cup of coffee, and the cat. They say they cannot go on anymore. And suddenly, history flips over. This time, in your favor. After you were nearly devoured by fear, no longer knew where to flee, how to be saved, after even the walls of your home ignited nightmares. For so long the air was bitter. Terrible things were done to you, for you, in your name. No more. Now the exclamation marks from all around are replaced again by the familiar doubt. Blessed, soft as grass. And life is soft. The house is once again a home. History bows its head, saying, I have no idea what possessed me, why it happened to me again. And again, you believe her and give in. Leave what happened behind you. With whatever strength remains, you open with her a new chapter.
Thank you so much. We're good at it as Jews, writing new chapters and new pages relentlessly.
And forgiving history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, we're reborn from every major crisis. So I'm still waiting for us to be reborn.
Before we wrap up, I just want to warmly recommend our listeners to follow Maya's Shesh Dakot B'Shishi. In English, that's 6 minutes on Friday. Every week, where Maya reflects on the week from her very unique perspective. You can find it both in Hebrew and in English on Maya's social media. And there are also WhatsApp groups where you can receive these pieces every Friday. So we'll put that in our notes of our podcast chapter. And Maya's latest poetry book, היהודי הנודדת, The Wandering Jewess. It's a deeply moving read. And hopefully it will be published soon in English as well. Maya, toda rabba. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much, Tamar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's it for this episode of Jewish Crossroads. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to write to us at jewishcrossroadspod@gmail.com. Thank you to Tomer Atzabi Bar, who edited this chapter. We'll see you next time, same place, same journey, with a new voice. See you soon.